tuned to Kennett, Zenith Cablevision. Thank you for watching. It's time for talk. Each evening at this time, Monday through Friday, Rosemary interviews local personalities and others who bring items of interest to this community. Time for Talk is a community betterment service. Tonight, Rosemary takes us by means of portable camera out of our studios and maybe into your neighborhood. And now, it's time for Talk.
Tonight we're continuing to unfold the story of this Missouri Bootheel. There are so many things to tell. A part of our problem was the selection of what should be included and what part we could leave out. Our thanks go to so many who gave us their personal testimonies. Also to the Missouri Historical Society, to PBS, and to the many history sources we consulted.
In these segments, it's the Great Depression we're interested in, and particularly the story of the hard-hit farmer. Time for Talk's interest began with an awareness that inside Kennett's city limits lies the Delmo subdivision located at the end of Independence Avenue across the highway from Masterson Elementary School. Facing Dunklin Street, which is its circular thoroughfare, are houses reminiscent of the late 1930s and early 1940s when they were built. Sometimes called the Colony, this subdivision didn't become a part of Kennett in an ordinary way. That investigation led to an extremely interesting facet of Bootheel history. It's a story of survival. The stock market crash of 1929 did not cause the Depression. It was only the reflection of the factors contributing to it. President Hoover was elected at the height of the prosperity of the 1920s. But he himself was surely beginning to feel trepidation.
Our country has cause for gratitude to the Almighty. We have been widely blessed with abundant harvests. We have been spared from pestilence and from calamities. Our institutions have served the people. Knowledge is multiplied and our lives are enriched with its application. Education has advanced. The health of our people has increased. We have dwelt in peace with all men. The measure of passing adversity which has come upon us should deepen the spiritual life of the people, quicken their sympathy, the spirit of self-sacrifice for others, and strengthen their courage.
Much of the economy of the 1920s was based on extravagant speculation, credit, and reckless installment buying. The industries of the North were booming. Henry Ford was mass-producing T-model Ford automobiles at an unbelievable rate. Everyone, he said, will be able to own a car. The nation as a whole felt an economic security, and President Hoover encouraged it with positive thinking.
I have no fears for the future of our country. It is bright with hope.
But the prosperity of the rest of the nation never reached the rural areas. The farmer found that his produce was yielding lower incomes while his taxes and the price of consumer goods continued to increase. Many farm laborers found their way to Detroit, Michigan, and other northern cities where they prospered far above their families at home. The tenants and the sharecroppers they left behind continued by just making it. Despite hardship, they stored food and lived off the land.
Today at noon, I was eating lunch with a lady over Prairie who was talking about that, about the people that went up north in 28. I had a cousin. He went up there in 28, and he married while he was up there, and, well, he just thought he owned the world. Well, in a year or two or three or four, they'd come down and tell my wife what they wanted for dinner, you know. They just thought we had everything. Well, we're still living in the hard road of gold. And we didn't make scarcely hardly a living. Now, that's what way it was. We had to work at both ends and keep things going to even live. But back then, your neighbor, if he run out of milk, you go down and borrow a gallon, half a gallon of milk, borrow a bag of meal or whatever. But
my dad, he demanded that we go to church, and he managed to keep a white shirt for me and for him to wear to Sunday on to church, because my dad demanded it that I go to church whenever I was a kid. Now, when I got a little older, I wasn't as church-minded as I should have been, and I had a chance to play baseball and make as much playing baseball as on Sunday as I could make all week working in the fields. So I instead of going to church on Sunday, I'd play baseball. You're very fortunate if you made a living.
But the reckless spending, investments, speculation, and overproduction had disastrous results. The economy folded like a house of cards. The mammoth industries of the North fell silent. Millions were out of work. The farmer could not sell his produce. By 1931, the price of wheat and corn averaged 45 cents and 30 cents per bushel.
7 cent cotton and a 40-cent meat. How in the world can a poor man eat? Flour up high and cotton down low. How in the world can we raise the dough? Nearly broken and fingers all sore. Cotton gone down to rise no more.
In an effort to overcome low prices, farmers produced more and more. But prices plunged. To make things worse, a severe drought intensified the situation. The Dust Bowl of the Midwest forced whole families to the road to find new opportunities for work. Millions of idle industrial workers also began roaming the nation to find employment. Those who remained in the cities fared very badly. Food was scarce. Soup lines formed. Heads of households grappled psychologically with idleness and their inability to support their families.
I spent 20 years in the factory. I did everything I was told. Soup, soup, they give me a bowl of soup, soup.
Because of drought and inability of farmers to sell their products, the farm economy virtually collapsed. The nation, in one voice, petitioned President Hoover for relief. A few measures, such as school lunches, were started, but in general, his response was slow and meager. He did not want people to learn to expect something for nothing, he said. But work simply was not available, and the government response was inadequate. Instead of food, Hoover asked the Red Cross to distribute seeds. But the gardens and the crops planted from the seeds died in the drought. The plight of farm laborers and sharecroppers became desperate. Farmers stormed a town in northeast Arkansas, demanding food for their families. In the 1920s, the banks had recklessly invested money in enterprises that failed. They were forced into bankruptcy. Depositors began to lose faith in the banks, and many withdrew their funds. Many institutions closed. From 1929 to 1932, over 300 banks in Missouri failed. wiping out depositors' holdings and life savings.
Here in Cardwell Bank, me and my dad's going up, turn off Main Street, going up the road there, and O.D. Hall and Jane Brewer standing out on the sidewalk. But Dad said, boys, I'm going to come back and pick up my money. Well, okay, we got it. Well, they was in a wagon then, going down to the chin back. So my dad come in, he just went in and checked it out. So what he didn't have a pot full, but what little he had was his. He went and got it. In about 2 or 3 weeks, that bank was closed up, boy.
I don't think it'll ever get big with me because it was just too serious to be to ever forget the things that happened in the Depression. Began just before I became cashier of the bank while Mr. Shelton was in the hospital. In those days, we were just following the crash in 1929. It happened along about October. In 2 or 3 months, well, then things began to get really bad. I became cashier in January 1930 while I was still 21. A day or two later, I think I was 22 the next day or the day after I was made cashier. And then we really went into a depression in 1930. 30, 31, 32, 33 were terrible years.
I know one man down at Silverdale that he had $2,000 insurance. He had $2,000 in the bank, and he liked $2,000 having his land paid for. So when the banks failed, he went over and told the bank president the story that what he had and what it was that he needed $2,000 for, and demanded his $2,000, or either he would have to end his life. That was a pretty touching story down there for us. We thought it was quite appropriate, though, that he should do those things.
As the situation worsened, farmer after farmer put his land up for sale. If he was unable to do that, he was forced to lose it for failure to pay taxes.
Went to the bank to borrow some money. Tell you right now, didn't find it funny. The banker said he had none to loan. Get your old hat and pull out home, for all I got's gone. All I got.
Lending institutions, such as banks that remained open, and insurance companies, foreclosed on the unpaid loans and became the unwilling recipients of the land. Attempting to relieve their problem, they made it possible for a lucky number of individuals with more than ordinary resources to purchase the land for ridiculously low prices. If they remained on the land, these farmers were forced to join the growing numbers of tenants and sharecroppers.
Sharecropping's all right, provided the sharecropper finds the right land, the right land. My experience is 9 times out of 10 he finds the wrong man, the wrong land. That being the case, just can't make a living to save his life.
Cotton and corn, and that was it. And I know we picked cotton and sold it for, as seed, not lint, sold it for 2 cents a pound.
Raggedy, raggedy are we, just as raggedy can be. We don't get nothing for our labor, so raggedy, raggedy are we. Hungry, hungry.
Rent's too high and the market's too low. We ask for credit and they all say no. We got good beef